Hey there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
And I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we've got a very special video for you about how we turned our house's old scullery into a jewel box kitchen.
It's a bit of an epic.
Yes, it's a bit of an epic.
When we moved into our house, despite the house itself being rather enormous, its kitchen was, as our neighbor said, the size of a thumbtack. This puny little space behind the butler's pantry was originally intended as a scullery for washing dishes. Back at the turn of the 20th century, when the house was built, its designer expected the real kitchen to be downstairs in the basement, manned by servants. When we moved in, that basement was disgusting in the extreme. And even after we'd cleaned it up, it was still a basement. As I told Gabriel, I am not a servant, and I wanted a proper kitchen with a window. After we'd dealt with our house's more pressing issues, like the leaky roof, the shattered plaster, and getting the plumbing and heat functional, we began the nearly 3-year process of turning our dinky little scullery into the spacious jewel box kitchen of our dreams. The particular floor plan of our house meant we couldn't expand the scullery into another room, so that left us with expanding out into the yard. Turning a plot of grass into a kitchen was an intimidating concept, to say the least, but Gabriel went at the task like a trooper, starting by breaking ground to install foundation piers. Our turkeys helped out with the demolition of our rotten old porch. The American heartland has some of the best topsoil in the world, and it's particularly deep here in our part of Iowa. This wonderful topsoil is what makes the heartland the breadbasket that feeds America and a lot of other places, too. The trade-off, however, is that for ideal building conditions, one wants bedrock. With the natural bedrock being so far underneath the surface of all that good topsoil, we had to create our own simulated bedrock with reinforced concrete piers. Incidentally, this is the same innovation which allowed the first skyscrapers to be built in the late 19th century. Our kitchen wasn't going to be as tall as a skyscraper, but we did want it to have a firm footing.
So, one of the big differences in Iowa is that we have a fairly deep frost line, which means that we have to get these foundation piers down below the frost line. And in Washington, this was about 6 inches, and here it's about 40 or 41 inches. And basically, the important part is getting down below there so that the frost heave isn't moving your foundation around, and the force that it can exert to do that is about, as I've learned studying it, 50,000 psi. That's a lot of force. And no matter how much our kitchen addition is going to weigh, it's not going to weigh enough to hold it down against that. So right now we're trying to get these holes deep enough and get some concrete piers set. And it's a lot of hard work. So that didn't fill that up very much. Clearly I need another probably 3 or 4, maybe 4 bags in order to fill this up all the way, which is good. It means I have a larger footing down there than I calculated. So,
And that's just one post.
That's just one post, yeah. So, well, we're making good progress though. Concrete is in the ground, the first of it. So, let me go get some more bags.
But my wishes all came true. I went and rubbed a rusty nail, and then I made a wish for mail. Next day a letter said you'd better come home without fail. I'm going to hide away on a little farm in Iowa. I'm going to ride away on the road that leads to yesterday.
After the piers were completed, while the concrete set and our feline inspector took the opportunity to examine them, Gabriel found time for some much-needed rest. After the reinforced concrete piers had thoroughly set and hardened, the next stage in the operation was building the platform which would ultimately become the floor of our kitchen. After that came the walls. Not being a professional engineer, Gabriel's guiding principle in the project was overbuilding, using 2x12s, the largest lumber possible, to make the structure as strong as possible.
Okay, so working on the platform here for the kitchen addition, and I just finished doing the blocking in the middle there, so you can see that's going to help support everything and keep those joists from wiggling around, and getting in my additional support columns in the middle, and starting to get an idea of what it's going to look like.
At this stage in things, the back porch, such as it was thoroughly rotten, so we had to remove it to continue the platform all the way up to the wall.
Yeah, this porch was pretty crusty.
It's very crusty. And it is going away.
Yes. Some of it's so rotten you don't even need the crowbar.
That's correct.
With the skeleton of the platform built and the rotten boards of the old porch gone, Gabriel could work on installing flat boards, and it started to look like a real floor. This also helped the next stage of the operations.
So explain what you've been doing.
Well, I'm removing our old rotting porch roof so that we can do a kitchen addition on here. And I have this large portion of the tin roof hanging by a thread. So this appears to be done in small sections of tin soldered together with lead. Who knows exactly when? I don't think this is the original porch. And it was leaking. As you can see, the wood is rotting out, and this is right in the way of where we plan to put on our kitchen addition here. So I need to be able to connect that addition to the house, so this old porch roof has to go. And you can see how rotted it is around the edges, and I've been gradually removing this over the course of the morning and trying to get it ready to cut the wood off of the house as well. So then hopefully we'll be able to build the walls and finish the platform and get the kitchen addition really going. And yes, Artemis approves. So Artemis, I wouldn't walk under that sword of Damocles if I were you. Yes, good move.
Smart kitty.
She listens to me.
Yes.
So, tin snips, I will hopefully cut the last little thread here if I can reach it.
I'm going to get out of the way.
Yes, good move. I think my platform is strong enough.
After the platform was built and had proven its stability, the next stage in the operations was framing and raising the walls. Now, ever since the 1985 release of Harrison Ford's major motion picture, Witness, with its iconic scenes of an Amish barn raising, it's been customary that any construction story should very prominently feature victorious hero footage of the walls being raised. For us, though, when we got to this stage of things, it was a case of all hands on deck, and there was no one to hold the camera. Since Gabriel needed my help to raise the walls, I couldn't very well be spared to film the process. This being the case, I hope everyone will be content with some footage of our royal feline assistants inspecting the latest progress. They're much cuter than we are in any case. Having at length received the approval of the feline royalty who make all decisions in our house, the next step was to move on to the roof. It was around this time that we met our Brazilian friends Lou and Felipe. Felipe is a PhD biochemist who teaches anatomy at the university where Gabriel works. Felipe's wife Lou, whose name is short for Lucilene, the Portuguese version of Lucy, was a professional chef down in Brazil. While Lou and I occupied ourselves with very important tasks, Felipe helped Gabriel continue work on our kitchen. We were very lucky that we met him when we did, since a significant amount of the work to come required multiple people. Hoisting unwieldy pieces of sheet metal up very tall ladders and holding large boards precisely in place while they are secured are tasks which are all but impossible for one man to accomplish alone. We really appreciated our friend's help. Of course, it still goes without saying that even with more human hands on the job, the most important part of the process remained submitting the work for kitty inspection and receiving the approval of our feline overlords. They made it very clear that they would accept nothing less than absolute perfection. The Queen's approval having been received and the walls being up, Gabriel sealed up the gaps, and then things got really exciting. Now we were finally ready to begin work on the inside of our kitchen. The jewel box kitchen of our dreams was becoming a reality. Expanding foam blocks air gaps, and installing metal guard plates over all wires prevents accidents with any nails which might be driven through the wall at a later date. As always, the Queens watched our progress with intense curiosity. The walls being up, insulated, wired, and secured, the next step was insulating them. Iowa winters can get down to -30, so insulation here is no joke. Those walls had to be well padded and well sealed to keep the kitchen warm in the winter. This would not only keep us comfortable, and more importantly, keep the cats comfortable, it would also help keep the plumbing from freezing when temperatures got really low. Important and necessary though it may be, most people don't consider insulation very exciting. Windows are pretty fun though. After the priority insulation was checked off our to-do list, Gabriel was able to move on with making window frames. After these frames and sills were in place, he was able to shed some light on the room by cutting out holes for the windows in the Tyvek he'd wrapped around the whole kitchen addition to protect things.
Good job. Otsukare-sama desu.
The next step was installing the chimney, and again our friend Felipe came to our rescue with an extra pair of hands. The chimney would prepare the kitchen for its ultimate destiny as the home of my beloved 1901 Charm Crawford wood cook stove, which we'd brought halfway across the country with us all the way from Washington State. Unfortunately, the puny little scullery kitchen had been too small to fit the Charm Crawford, and my dear stove had been in our barn ever since our arrival. I was chomping at the bit to have her back in operation again, but first we had to finish the walls of the new kitchen addition.
Explain what furring strips are and why they're necessary.
Sure. So, basically, what we're going to be installing on the walls in here is wainscot down low. And then
you've got most of that up already.
I've got most of that up already. And I'm going to be putting pressed tin up high. Now, both of those, I needed to be able to... Basically, both of those came in narrower widths than the spacing between our studs. And so I needed something that gave us a consistent way to mount both the wainscoting and the pressed tin to the walls. That was also cheaper and easier and less heavy and cumbersome than plywood. The furring strips are also more period appropriate. This is something, before you had plywood, solid wood options were pretty much what you used. And so these would allow you to have some consistent places to mount the various wall treatments that you were using on the inside. We didn't want to do plaster because we have had enough of plaster. We're fixing plaster in the rest of the house. And so all of this is going to be wood or metal, and that's it. So the furring strips are going to be our way of mounting it in here.
Tell me again about your pneumatic nail gun.
Yes, these are, they make it, well, obviously a lot quicker to do a lot of this sort of framing and finishing stuff. These are powered by compressed air. These are actually the tools that the Amish craftsmen use around here. They tend to be against the electric tools, but they tend to be all for the pneumatics. And so these are a generally good way to get everything nailed up without having my arm fall off.
I like your arms.
I think by this point I've counted, and in total fasteners around this entire edition here, it's running well into the many thousands, probably close to 10 or 12,000 fasteners that we've used in total in this whole thing, and we're not done yet.
Nails and screws?
I'm talking nails and screws of all sorts.
10,000.
Probably 10 to 12,000 so far.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a few.
It's a few. It's a few.
It's a few.
And that's just here in the kitchen edition.
That's just here in this.
That's
room.
not
Yeah.
all the repairs and restorations we've done elsewhere in the house.
Right.
Yeah, it's a few.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely keeps things, keeps things together, though.
Yeah. You put hurricane tie-downs in the roof of this, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Explain about those.
So, basically, they're not required by code in most places in the U.S.
But they're a good idea in tornado country.
They're a good idea here. These are basically metal ties that allow you to connect the rafters or the joists to, basically it holds your roof onto the rest of the house. And so they are, each one of them has about 10 fasteners, screws or nails to hold them on. And there's probably, let's see, there's 2 per joist in here. I can't count how many that we've got.
We can't count that high.
There's probably, there's a bunch of them just in this edition, and then I installed them on the main house as well so that we could basically make sure our roof doesn't go away in a tornado.
Yeah. Because as I understand it, most houses, the roof just kind of sits there, right?
The roof sits there. It's got a few nails that are holding it on.
Right.
But code doesn't require necessarily that you have a lot of big, expensive metal parts holding it on.
But in
the
tornado
weight is going to hold it on.
But in tornado country, it's a good idea.
But in tornado country and in hurricane country, these are good ideas.
Because the wind will just go, oh, whoop.
There's a roof.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like the lid of a teapot as far
No,
as the
that's
wind's
mine.
concerned.
Yes,
yeah,
right,
exactly.
Exactly. Yep. So it's a good idea to have everything held together as well as you can put it together.
Yes.
So
I like keeping my roof on.
yes, it's a good thing.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you, dear.
Continuing.
Continuing.
Yes.
After the furring strips were in place, Gabriel installed wainscoting on the bottom of the walls. This gives the walls more interest than if they were patterned all the way from floor to ceiling, and wooden wainscoting is less susceptible to damage than most patterned materials. Of course, since wooden wainscoting is made from trees and trees have natural variations, some wainscoting is bound to be prettier than other wainscoting. But clever folks can find ways around that.
Yes. Oh, holy boards, we hide you 'cause you're ugly. These are the boards that no one wants to see. No comment?
No, you're absolutely right. That is where we put them. Where they will be hidden by the icebox.
So, explain.
Well, there's always some parts of the boards, well, actually quite a few parts of these boards that are really subpar. In this case, we have ones that are so subpar as to have holes and chunks missing. We don't want to waste these boards. We don't. They all cost money, and therefore we want to make sure we get good coverage of everything. And they're still wood. They're good in their own way. Okay, they're not very good, but there they are. They're on the wall.
Not all boards are created equal.
Not all boards are created equal. These will get filled in with some sort of putty, and then stain will go over them like that, and that will hopefully hide any of these other imperfections. And then we'll put a big ice box in front of it, which, if all of my cosmetic attempts didn't cover anything up, the ice box will. It's like thing.
So explain what you're doing with the tongue and groove and what tongue and groove is.
So tongue and groove is basically a way that wood fits together tightly, but
It's like a jigsaw, basically, but
basically,
three-dimensional.
yeah. The challenge being that the wood is not, it's a natural material, so it's not always perfectly straight. And so some of it is less perfectly straight than others. And those pieces sometimes need encouragement. And I have to line things up and make them all slide together, which I just finally did with this one. And then, because they also bend a little bit this way, we have to make sure that we're still vertically true here, which we're pretty darn close. I'm going to just try to move it out just a hair, so that we can make it, let's see, which way is that going to go? Too far. Let's go back in. Let's try that. That's closer.
And I've been watching you do this for every single one of these boards.
Yes. Yeah, it does take some effort.
So explain about your pneumatic nail gun.
So this is a little brad nailer, which basically is, it does a little finish nails. They're tiny and doesn't take very much force.
It's the same thing the Amish use around here, isn't it?
It is, yeah. The Amish use a lot of these pneumatic tools. They don't like electric, but pneumatic is fine by them. And propane. Propane powered is fine too.
Oh, and kerosene powered stuff.
And kerosene powered stuff, yes.
Yeah. And other power tools as long as there's an Englisher involved.
Yes. But yeah, it tends to be pneumatic tools are the standby.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this.
What you got there?
I broke my block I was using to whack things into place.
Well, how many times did you whack it against the tongue and groove boards?
Maybe a dozen times per board for this 2 walls,
And how many boards are there?
There's a lot of boards. I haven't counted them. I'm not that OCD.
Oh, but you're OCD enough to do all this.
Oh yes,
Yes.
but not OCD enough to count them. That would probably make me depressed.
Yes, perhaps. Tell me why corners are tricky.
Corners are tricky because that's where, especially when you're an amateur carpenter and you don't know if everything is perfectly level or straight, and the boards are definitely not perfectly straight, and so things kind of come to a head when you hit a corner. And my goal is to make things as straight and level as possible. wherever I can.
Yeah. The windows are looking nice.
Yes, they certainly are. I think they look gorgeous.
You made those too?
I did. I still have to clean off all the extra glazing putty, but they still look gorgeous. And I think they're really a worthy piece of work, especially after looking at, the big Menards store, what they charge for vinyl windows these days, let alone, custom wood stained glass windows here.
Which nobody does.
Right.
Well, very, very few.
Very, very few.
Nobody does flash glass like this. They do stained glass, but not the wood framed flash glass.
Yeah, which I like a lot.
Explain the difference.
So this doesn't have any leading in it. This is just colored glass panes in a wood frame with multiple panes. And it ends up being really nice. It's easier than stained glass, which is good for me, but I will advance eventually to learning how to do actual stained glass too.
Well, I don't know if it's any easier, because this is carpentry skill.
Yes. Well, the carpentry skill to me is marginally less scary than trying to cut glass into perfect shapes and not slice myself up in the process. But I will get there. I will get there. There we go. Removing some of this putty while we're at it, since I thought about it. But then I will go right back to wood.
Yes. The front door of our old home in Washington had a flash glass window in it with blue, red, and yellow panes. I really loved that window. I think it may have been my favorite part of our dearly loved home. Whenever things were difficult, which was pretty often back in my home state, I would watch the colored sunlight shining in through the ruby and sapphire tinted panes of glass, and it always made me feel better. We left Washington for a lot of very important reasons, which anyone who's read my published diary from the year 2020 should understand. As much as we needed to leave, though, I'll always miss our old home, and that beautiful window was sort of a symbol to me of what I missed. Knowing this, Gabriel promised me he'd do what he could to recreate that peace-giving colored glass window in our new home, and he set about making not just one, but 2 copies of it for our new kitchen.
So I am trying to cut out these muntins that go through the windows so that they intersect nicely and fit tightly together.
Explain about what a muntin is.
So these are basically bits of the window frame that are going to go like this and this across here. And they create smaller panes for us. We're going to use this to make flash glass. So we're going to put colored panes all around and then have a central clear pane. And the challenge is making these cuts very accurately so that everything actually goes together in the proper orientation and fits snugly. And so I'm currently trying to just puzzle out what the heck I do to make that work. And I'm trying to produce myself a guide out of scrap wood that I can use to clamp on there, but it's not going so well because I'm just trying to puzzle out exactly how to make this fit snugly to this. And yeah, so we'll see if I can manage it.
Gabriel stained the insides of the window frames he'd made dark to match the other woodwork inside the kitchen, and he painted the outside of the window frames white to match the outside of the house. Besides all the carpentry, some other essential features of this whole project were glazing points and putty. The glazing points hold the panes of glass in place while the putty is drying, and the putty is the glue which seals the glass to the wood long term. After these very special windows were completed, then it just became a matter of putting them in their forever home. Working from the principle that more is more, besides the red and blue flashed glass windows, Gabriel decided to install a large picture window flanked with panes of marbled artist's glass above the future position of the sink he planned to install in our kitchen. The carpentry involved was less complicated, but in some ways this project intimidated him more, because the fragile panes of glass were so much larger. However, as a great American once said, "We choose to go to the moon and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." After the colored glass windows were in place, next came a particularly tricky stage in the operations. As you'll recall, we were expanding this kitchen from the old scullery. That dinky little scullery had a good-sized window in its outer wall, and we wanted to save that window. We wanted to move it out to the new kitchen and reinstall it in the new outer wall. This would also be our way of opening up the wall of the old scullery to turn it all into one big usable kitchen space. The tricky part in all this was that first that old window had to be extracted, sash weights clanking. Ideally, we wanted to keep the whole thing intact and avoid breaking any glass, so that we could install this old original window in our new kitchen. This was another task which called for extra hands, and our good friend Felipe came to our aid yet again. Bless the man, we love him. Asking around for additional help, Gabriel managed to also enlist the help of another professor from his university. This one was from the English department. So, at this point, counting Gabriel, we had a case of a librarian, a PhD biochemist, and a Thoreau expert walk into a house and say that window has got to move. And together they made it happen. Given Henry David Thoreau's famous emphasis on simplicity, I'm really not sure what Thoreau himself would have said about building a jewel box kitchen. On the other hand, he certainly couldn't have denied that we were truly sucking the marrow out of life. In any case, we were sincerely grateful for all the help.
Stain. Yes.
And this is just the bottom too, so the top is going to look even better when I'm done.
Nice.
Right now I'm just making sure that none of this dries on here, that it all just gets to absorb.
Uh-huh.
And hopefully not catch too much of my rag in these little knots.
Right.
I think this is going to be a truly amazing windowsill.
You want another egg, Psyche? Is that what's bothering you?
She wants everything.
All she wants is everything.
Yes.
Is she asking too much? All she wants is everything.
Okay, now to flip this over. Yes. Okay. I'm hoping I have just enough left of this can of stain to do this one windowsill.
Excellent.
It is a large windowsill, so I'm hoping I can stretch it that far.
Well, there'll be lots of room for the cats to stretch out on it.
Yes.
But we'll have to work to make sure it doesn't get horizontal space syndrome.
Yes, correct.
Horizontal space syndrome is when horizontal spaces collect anything and everything.
Yes.
They are prone to it.
maintenance.
That's right. We must be ever vigilant.
Yes, to prevent the spread of horizontal space syndrome.
Yes. Only you can prevent horizontal space syndrome.
Exactly.
The old window and its spiffy new windowsill being in place, the next step was opening up the bottom of the wall where it had been. The sparks you're seeing in this video clip are from gypsum in the plaster striking against the saw. I already mentioned our favorite JFK quote about choosing to do things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Now Gabriel got to live out another famous quote from the 20th century. Tear down this wall. The scullery we were starting from had a very utilitarian sink. Once Gabriel fixed the plumbing and got our water running in early days, it was a decent enough sink in its way, and we saw no reason to get rid of it. All the same, though, we'd both long contemplated how very convenient it would be for an ideal kitchen to have two sinks, and this was our chance. We did a great deal of research into the various sink options that were available, starting by looking into reclaimed old antique sinks. As we discovered, the old antique sinks proved to be in high demand and proportionately expensive. Curiously enough, at the time we were investigating these things, the particular quirks of international economies meant that at the time, it was actually cheaper to buy a hand-carved, custom-made marble sink from Turkey and have it shipped here than it would have been to buy a refurbished 19th century sink in America and drive out to get it ourselves. Go figure, right? Besides this funny little quirk of economies, we liked the idea of a marble sink because it fit right in with our house's neoclassical architecture. Neoclassical structures are inspired by the classical world of ancient Greece and Rome, in which marble featured prominently. Years ago, we'd admired an ancient Roman marble bathtub in the Louvre, and it was exciting to think of having a marble sink of our own. It also allowed us to borrow an idea from a house museum we'd seen in Milwaukee, where the servants' kitchen had a marble sink with a seashell carved into it as a soap dish. Our cats seemed to like the marble sink. We got the impression they felt that we, as their human servants, were finally bringing their surroundings up to a level worthy of their feline magnificence. The trickiest part of installing our sink was putting in the indoor hand pump, a feature you may remember from some of my Tales of Chetzemoka books. I'll let Gabriel tell you more.
Okay, so we're going to be installing a hand pump, a manual pump on our sink to the side. And normally those sort of hand pumps, if you don't keep water in the pipes and in the pump, you have to prime the pump every time you want to use it.
Okay, explain why we want a hand pump and what priming is.
Okay, so besides the faucets that we're going to have on our sink that connect to the pressurized water system, we wanted an old-style pitcher hand pump on the system that would work from an unpressurized system. So if our water goes out, or if we, for whatever reason, have to disconnect it, we have a manual operating system that's going to allow us to do that.
And the water does go out sometimes here.
Water does go out, and who knows what might happen in the future. So this gives us a backup emergency water supply. So typically the way that those old style pumps worked is that you had to fill them with water in order to start the pump going, called priming the pump. There's a way to get around that, which is to put a check valve in the system that prevents water from leaving the pump once you've gotten it up in there. So it will keep the system full of water and ready to pump whenever you want to start. So this is the check valve that I've gotten. It's a nice big bronze check valve, and it's extremely simple. If you look inside here, there is a valve that allows water to come through this way when you're pulling it up with pressure, but it does not allow the water to go back through. If there's any pressure coming from this direction, it closes that flapper. and it prevents any water from going through. And so that should keep water in the pump and allow us to use that without having to prime it every time. So this is where the manual pump is going to mount over here to the side of the sink. This is the pipe that's going to come out of the bottom of that, and that's going to go through here like that. I'm going to probably wrap this with a bicycle tube to protect the marble in case anything moves. And this pipe is then, to make that look a little better, it's actually going to go through this. And so this is going to be right there and allow that to look really nice under the pump.
Everything comes down to bicycles with you, doesn't it?
Everything does. So then below the check valve, this extremely heavy galvanized pipe section will run down through the floor, probably about here somewhere. And then I'll be connecting it back into the house, where we're going to have an emergency water tank in the basement.
And we picked up the emergency water tank yesterday from Chicago.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It looks like a plastic version of a hot water tank, basically.
Yeah, it's essentially a...
It's a cold water tank.
It's a cold water tank. But unlike the hot water tank, it's not going to be under pressure. It will just be holding water sitting in there, no pressure. And then we're going to provide the pressure when we pump this with the manual pump.
Not under pressure.
Right.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
And explain what these things sticking out of the wall are.
These are brackets that are going to support, hopefully, the about 300-pound weight of this marble sink. Because I don't entirely trust these brackets to support the sink entirely on their own, despite the numerous screws and nails that are holding these in, I am going to get two sort of wooden legs that support the sink at the front corners, so that we then have 3 points of support connecting to the wall, 2 points of support going to the floor. Then I'll feel pretty confident that that sink isn't going anywhere. But that sink is very heavy. It'll be a project.
Everything is.
Everything is. Everything is a project. Now I need to make sure that this fits into the bottom of the pump.
What's that? What's that?
This is the short stainless section of pipe that we're using to connect the pump to the check valve, and I need to make sure it actually is the right size to screw into the pump.
Oh, that's the one you were just putting in the test fitting in the sink.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
so I'm going to go and make sure that this is the right size. Okay.
Yes.
So this is the old pitcher pump that we are going to be restoring to work, and hopefully this pipe will... Oh, look at that. It is exactly the right size.
Yay.
So, that is what I had hoped for. And look at that, it's pretty much the right length.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
Of course, this pump doesn't work right now because it has no leather washers inside it to create a seal.
Well, it's also not hooked up to any source of water. That would be an impediment.
Even if it were, it would not work because it has no leather seals. So I have to work out how to take this pump apart and how to basically measure it for size, and then I should be able to get those leather seals from the Amish supply places because they still use these sorts of pumps.
What you doing?
I'm trying to get the big nut on this plunger unscrewed, and so I can put on a new leather seal washer, a cup washer, to make this actually work for pumping water, but it is stuck.
So show me what this goes to.
So this goes to this pump. This is the top part of it.
Yay!
So I'm going to make this work,
Yay!
but I need to find a way to get this off. So I'm thinking heat.
Heat.
Yes.
Oh, look who's
Yes.
wanting to get into the workshop.
That's right. Let's see.
She wants to participate. She thinks she can help.
That's right.
How many rooms in this house? And she wants in the one she can't come in?
She always wants in the one she can't come in.
Oh, and there's the whole great outdoors, too. But no, she wants to be in the room where you are, because she loves you.
That's right. Sorry there. No. I'm going to be making fire. You wouldn't like it.
Yeah, this is not something you want a cat around.
No.
Especially not a disaster-prone cat like Diana.
Right.
She tends to get into accidents. So what does this part do?
This is the lower seal washer and check weight, so that this allows water to, this seals the outside, and this then allows water to come up through the inside when you're pumping, and then closes to keep it from leaving the pump.
Cool.
Because of the weight.
So it just doesn't just slide back.
Right, yeah, it's a check valve. So yeah, hopefully it is all the right size for this pump. I just have to work out how to get more things apart.
Cool.
Yes.
It's going to be cool to have our own pump in the kitchen.
It'll be very cool. Oh, it'll just take some more work, of course.
And the really well-designed houses did have these in the 19th century. They would, if they were really designing things well, they'd put the house over the well, which is brilliant.
Or just run a pipe.
Or run a pipe.
So, yeah.
Imagine Roman technology
That's
in
right.
the Victorian era.
Yes.
Actually, that's pre-Roman. That goes back to Crete.
Well, even earlier, there's various prehistoric societies they found in India that had a bunch of essentially public plumbing works and sewers and everything else.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how many people think that plumbing was invented in the 20th century?
Yes, it definitely is.
I don't know where that idea comes from. It's a wacky one.
Well, the idea that, of course, everything that's important and valuable was a modern invention, and the definition of modern these days is the 20th century.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know where I put something. How can it possibly be that I've lost something in such an organized environment?
Oh, no sad Gabriel face. No sad Gabriel face. Oh.
For it. And this is the pipe that's going to go connect to our manual pump. Right now, this is the section that's actually going to be hidden down below there. This is the check valve, which will keep water in the pipe so we don't have to keep priming the pump. And then this is the base of the pump that will connect up here on top of this. And I've got to drill 3 holes to mount that pump.
Explain about priming the pump.
So basically the pump has to have water in the pump to be able to generate pressure, to be able to lift the rest of the water up there. So if there isn't water in the pump already, you've got to prime the pump by adding some water to it in order to build up suction.
It's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem.
It is. Hopefully the check valve plus the valve that's inside the pump that has a leather flapper will keep enough water in it to make it work.
Okay, explain what you're doing.
I'm mounting the pipes for this faucet. The trouble being that because I had to pre-assemble everything and then get this mounted, the whole backsplash, now I'm trying to work up and behind here, which is a difficult place to access, especially since I don't have teeny weeny little hands. So, I've mounted some studs, and I need to put a nut onto the stud. The problem is, in the course of all this messing around, part of the threads on the stud got damaged. Everything else is now pretty much mounted, so I can't get the nut to go down past a certain place. So my solution is going to be to take this little metal straw, cut a piece of it, and use it as a sleeve washer so that I can actually tighten the nut without having to try to get it past this. Why am I not just tighten the nut because I can't even get a wrench in there because I don't have enough space to fit even a small wrench inside that area with my hands and make everything move. So,
Explain about the straw.
the straw is actually a little stainless steel drinking straw. And I was thinking about what am I going to use to make a sleeve washer that I have around. And then finally I was like, wait a minute. We have these, and they're way too short to actually use as drinking straws. I don't know who thought this was a great length for a straw.
That's why they were in the clearance bin for 99 cents for a whole
Exactly.
package of them.
Right. So this should work very well as a sleeve washer if I just cut the right length of it off. Let's hope that that does the trick. Then I have my other problem, which is trying to get a screw in back there, which is really difficult because it turns out it's going into a knot in the wood, and I have no choice but to try to put it in there. So then I can go back to trying to do that. Okay, cutting up the straw. Expansion thing. So this one has a screw that will tighten in. These two have bolts and nuts. It should be enough.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And I've got all the hardware laid out and set up.
Good.
So this luckily comes off of the rest of the pump. So this will be a little easier to deal with up here. But really we're probably going to have to tighten this on because as we stick this up and through, in order to hide this check valve, it is going to end up being so close that if it were turning, it would hit the thickness of this, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So then once we get this mounted to that, so my idea is, because I know we can't get it super tight, I have this stuff called Expando that is basically, you coat the threads with it and then it expands and fills the space to keep it from leaking. And this was designed by NASA in the 1960s.
Wow.
So this works from negative 300 degrees to 1,000 degrees and up to 5,000 psi, and it works for freon and fuel oil and nitrogen and CO2 and oxygen and whatever. It's mostly made from magnesium oxide, limestone, graphite, magnesium chloride. Like, I don't know, but this is my plan. And I have to mix this up. It's a powder. So we mix.
Awesome.
And the windowsills.
Oh.
So this one's got the nice little curve to it.
Yeah. What is the purpose of this curve?
Because the pump is going to be mounted here.
Oh, okay.
And so this way it clears the pump and gives more clearance from your hand.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. Wow.
and then this, clears this as it goes in here.
So this is the inauguration of the pump, which is pretty awesome. My fascination and infatuation with these goes back to a movie from my childhood, actually. I don't know if anybody remembers the 1980s Big Bird movie, back before Disney bought the Muppets and things went downhill very rapidly. Back when Jim Henson was still in charge, there was a song in that movie where they're pumping water from a pump like this, and they're singing, "The sun is in the sky and clouds are rolling by, and today is gonna be one wonderful day." And then the chorus is, "Easy going, we'll laugh our cares away on this easy going day." And it's to the rhythm of pumping the water, and I've been fascinated with these ever since. So, first thing I have to do, Gabriel got this all hooked up, bless him. So the first thing I have to do is prime it with water, because this works on suction principles. And so, just like a siphon, you have to get the siphon going, and then it keeps on going on its own. we have to pour some water in this to get it started. Okay, so hopefully that's enough. And let's see how this goes. Gurgle, gurgle.
Of course, with the kitchen plumbed but the wood stove still in pieces out in the barn, it was important to make sure things stayed warm. Gabriel restored and repainted a radiator from a room which had had 2 of them, and our friends helped us move it out to the new kitchen.
Thank you for helping carry that, Felipe. It's it's too heavy for me.
For the ceiling and upper walls of our jewel box kitchen, we decided to go with pressed tin. Pressed tin is literally textured tin stamped out of sheets of metal by enormous machinery. In the late 19th century, it was a common alternative to molded plaster, and a few hours south of us, down in Missouri, there's an original stamped tin factory still in operation. By the way, I made another video about our road trip down there to pick up our tin. I hope you'll check it out. After we'd gotten our load of tin back home to Iowa, now the ball was in my corner. All that tin had to be primed and painted, and with Gabriel busy on the structural elements of the kitchen, this more delicate work fell to me. Bastet was utterly exhausted just thinking about all the work I had ahead of me. It was indeed a task.
So I've primed this tin, which is a very messy process, and now I am painting over the primer. It's going to take 2 layers of this olive sprig paint, and then I get to do the detail work.
Reason we definitely have to prime it is because the primer is oil-based, and our paint to match everything else is water-based.
Right. And water-based paint would just rust the tin. So we need to put the primer on first. But that gets done as a spray, which is very messy, and the little particulates get everywhere, and if they got on the camera lens, then every clip I shot thereafter would have flecks of white primer paint on it. Nobody wants that. Because this is textured paint, I have to paint pretty quickly with broad strokes, or it would wind up interfering with the texture. Or textured tin, rather. So here I am reusing a disposable cat food dish to have my paint in. And what we're doing is that basically all neoclassical houses are to one extent or another based on the Parthenon in ancient Greece. And the marbles in the Parthenon, at the time that the Victorian neoclassical structures were built, because those marbles over in Greece had weathered for so many centuries, people thought that they were white. But more recent discoveries and closer looking has shown that actually they originally did have paint on them. It just weathered away. And so when you see a lot of neoclassical structures, there are a lot of just glaring white statues and such. And that's going off of the original idea of what these would have looked like in ancient Greece. But because the more recent view has shown it to be more polychrome, we're going with a polychrome look on the textured materials in our new kitchen. Now, I got this idea for polychroming our kitchen after we had visited the Parthenon replica in Nashville and read about their debate over whether they're going to colorize their collections based on this recent research. And I realized right away how cool it would look in a polychrome design, and that in its own way it would be even more historically accurate as a polychrome because it would be hearkening back to ancient Greece. But at the same time I groaned at myself because I realized also at the same time how much work it would be. And sometimes I wonder if I should be committed somewhere. But as we keep telling ourselves, it'll be gorgeous when we're done. I will confess from time to time, I seriously question my own sanity for painting a significant amount of our house with brushes this size or smaller. Yeah. I ask you, is this the action of a sane and reasonable person? And I really don't know the answer. But I know it's going to look good. And future generations will look at it and marvel. How did they do this? What sort of fabulous technology did they have? And the answer? The fabulous technology that I had was patience. And mule-headed stubbornness. 'Cause that is my superpower. Yay! Now what have we got here?
So here we have all of these supporting wooden brackets that are going to get mounted up there to allow us to mount the cornice properly.
And point out what the cornice is.
So the cornice is basically these panels over here, which are going to be a curve that connects the main part of the wall to the main part of the ceiling. And that is going to be a fiddly thing to try to get everything straight. And so these are going to help us keep the proper shape for that cornice all the way around. And give us something to nail them to.
They're actually pretty on their own. It's almost a shame they get covered up.
Mm-hmm. definitely be a help. And having pre-formed corner pieces is going to make our job a lot easier for the corners.
That's very convenient.
Exactly. So I need to work out how we're going to mount these, because they only gave us one bit that we could nail through here, and they didn't give us one at this end. So I'm going to need to get some either metal L brackets or use a little block of wood. I'm guessing block of wood, because I have lots of small chunks of wood to use and nail guns and not a lot of metal L brackets around. So I will probably make that work. We'll see.
Those are cool corners.
Yes. So this
So those go in the corners of the room then?
Almost. So we have the three that go in those three corners of the room.
Right.
This external corner is going to go to finish the cornice up in that area.
Cool.
Right up there. So that we
Fancy
don't have it
schmancy.
just end with a hole. So,
Yeah, fancy schmancy.
yes.
Looks very cool.
Yes, this one obviously, to make the metal do this, they had to do lots of shrinking of the metal. So it ends up with an interesting texture, but I think it'll look fine once it's all painted. So,
Oh yeah.
yes. Let's see.
You said these are the inside corners?
Yeah, these are the inside corners. These go in the regular corners of the room up here. So they'll end up doing something like this.
What was that?
We have 3 lions in this room.
I wasn't expecting a lion. Did we order a lion?
We got 3 lions.
I guess we do, but I wasn't expecting it. Diana, what do you think of the lion?
Here. Lion?
What do you think, Diana?
Diana, take a look. Hey, we need your input. Diana.
Show
you
Psyche.
okay with it?
She doesn't like the lion. Try Psyche.
Psyche, what do you think of the lion?
She doesn't like the lion either. But we got 3 of them, so I guess we got lions now.
We got lions.
Other houses have termites, we have lions.
Yep.
Okay, I guess I'm down with lions. I like cats.
They're big cats.
They're very big cats. You know, sometimes you get things you weren't expecting.
That's right. Sometimes you open a box and there's a lion.
Or 3 lions. And we were going to have little cat corbels on the edges, so I guess it works to have 3 giant lion heads. Okay, sure, why not? Lions?
Yep.
Sure.
Lions.
Okay, I guess I'm down with lions. They're cats. They're cats.
Yep. I am basically setting up an improvised brake to be able to bend these tin panels. Sarah, basically this was your idea. This was a very, very smart idea to avoid having to cut in our corners and potentially trim over them and, you know, try to make that match up. She said, why don't we just bend them? And so the The raised relief on these does make it a little challenging to bend them at some places, but it is way easier and better and looks way smoother than trying to cut the corners accurately. So, I'm trying to measure very carefully right now to make sure that we end up with exactly a straight bend, and we should. And so then what we end up doing, so I've clamped this to the workbench, I've got a piece of wood across the top, some heavy-duty clamps to keep everything exactly in position, and then I just end up leaning on it to get things going, trying to get this to bend cleanly along the edge of the workbench. And then in any places where it proves a little bit reluctant, that's why we have the brass machinist's mallet, to be able to give it a little tap and encourage it to bend where we want it to.
So why is it called a break and not a bend?
It's called a break because that's where the line of the metal breaks.
But you don't want it to break, you want it to bend.
You do. But you see, a break is different than a bend. A bend is smooth. A break is abrupt. So this is for making an abrupt bend.
Gotcha.
Though technically, in a real break, you could also clamp in different profiles, like a piece of round bar, so that you could make a smoother bend. But most breaks are really meant to bend something sharply. But yes, if I were a real metal worker, I would have a break.
If you were a real metal worker, you wouldn't be in your bathrobe.
This isn't the uniform of the Metal Workers Guild? Okay. So now, at this stage, it is ready to come out of the break.
Yay.
And we have a fairly smooth curve. And to touch it up the last little bit, I'm going to just very carefully,
Watch your fingers.
yep, very carefully bend it just a little bit more until we get exactly that 90 degree that we want.
Excellent. Yay.
It should be very close to where we want it.
Excellent. Yay.
And we have a fairly smooth curve. And to touch it up the last little bit, I'm going to just very carefully,
Watch your fingers.
yep, very carefully bend it just a little bit more.
Here we have the corner going in the corner.
That's right.
Imagine. What a novel concept.
There we go.
Yay. Progress.
Looks pretty good.
Yep. So explain what you're doing now.
So now I've installed a T-nut in the outside wall.
What's a T-nut?
A T-nut is a threaded thing that you hammer in there that basically, hopefully, is going to hold this bolt. Now the problem is that I'm trying to do this utterly blind because I can't see inside the wall. So I have to try to guide this to get started in the threads, but I just don't know exactly where it is.
I thought a tea nut was an almond or some other nut you ate with tea.
That would probably be a different type of tea.
You don't think that would hold the pot rack?
I don't think that would hold the pot, no matter how hard you try.
Oh, okay. Explain the plan and why you're doing this.
So this pot rack
Is heavy,
and it is spaced
and it's going to hold heavy things.
right, but it's spaced incorrectly to fit onto standard spaced studs. And so we've got it firmly into one stud here, but over here, luckily this one hit wood that I happened to add in the wall, but this one didn't hit anything. And so we're trying to screw it all the way through the wall, essentially, to the outside sheathing.
Explain what this is now.
So now I'm going to try to find that T-nut using all thread, and then perhaps just use this to go through the wall.
Explain all thread.
All thread is basically like a really long bolt without a head on it.
So it's all thread.
Yep. And we're going to see if we can find that T-nut with this. And if we can and get it threaded in, then we just thread it through and then just put a nut on the end. But we got to find it first.
Oh, where has your tea gone? Oh, where could it be?
But it can't be that.
So many things exist in the mechanical world that were never dreamt of in my philosophy.
So now I have a couple options. In order to turn this, I think I have it going into the T-nut. I think I do. But now, if I am threading this through the T-nut, now is when I'm going to go outside and make sure I'm all the way through. Good enough.
Yay! I think that'll hold my pots.
I think it'll hold your pots. They don't weigh as much as I do.
They're pretty heavy pots. You're not that big of a guy.
They're still not that heavy. I think we're good.
Yay.
Our plan, we're going to put this white marble tile on the floor in most of the kitchen. But having worked with a wood stove before, I remembered that there is absolutely no way to prevent 100% all the time that any cinders will never ever get on the floor. And black sooty cinders on white marble tile is bad mojo. So I had the idea that we should do a slate section of the floor around where the stove's going to go, because the slate is dark, and also that sort of evokes, in the 18th century, Americans would have had that hearth with the rough stone and the darker, more natural stone. And so this is sort of a 19th century echo of the darker, more natural stone around the stove. But it's in the fancy 19th century way of having this beautiful Victorian stove on the slightly more natural looking stone. And we just unpacked the slate. So this is the slate, and it's really nice. Don't you think it's nice, dear?
Oh yes. It's far smoother. I've never seen slate that's actually been polished.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
So now we have the what's going to be the backboard for the slate behind the stove. So that'll be the plan, slate, and then a little bit of wood trim around it. And then I've got to put down all the concrete board on the floor at this point. And we may or may not have enough of it, so we'll find out. these we are gluing down as well as screwing down, just to provide all the possible stability we can hope for.
Glue then screw.
Glue then screw. So, and pop.
That was very well targeted, my dear.
Pretty well. It didn't quite line up perfectly, but
Darn close.
I'll get it. There we go.
So explain what you're going to do next and tell the story of the tile you're starting with.
Well, I'm going to work on doing the slate backdrop for the stove and the slate down on the floor, of course, but for up in the upper left corner of this area of the hearth, we've had a special tile made of us standing out in front of this house with one of my bikes leaning up against it. And then we're going to surround that with some mother of pearl tiles as well to fill in some of the space. So that's going to be a decorative way to sort of sign the kitchen.
And explain what the rest of this sort of hearth area is going to look like.
So this is going to be a really nice slate backdrop for the wood cook stove and the wood box. And it's going to be, it'll function as a heat shield, of course, to protect the wall. And it will also echo the 18th century large hearth and fireplace design of the early American kitchens.
So this is like a 21st century recreation of a 19th century echo of the 18th century tradition.
Yes,
I like it.
exactly.
I like it. And explain about the order of operations for all this.
Well, basically, we had to do the ceiling and all of the stuff that involves ladder work first, while we just had bare plywood on the floor. And now, as we're finished up with the ceiling and we're moving on to the walls, a lot of which honestly I can do with just this little rubber step stool, I'm not as worried about the floor material. However, I'm still not going to put the marble and slate on until we're absolutely done with the walls and ceiling. And then we can do the final floor finish, and then we can move in the stove, which has to sit on top of the floor, and then we can do the various furnishings that we plan to put in the room.
Show what happened to one of the few tiles that was in here.
So because I had to do this corner area to put the radiator in, while we were using ladders to put in the ceiling, this tile, which wasn't as fully supported as I would like, cracked. And so now I'm going to either have to just glue that back together, which might be fine since it'll be beneath a couch, or replace the tile. And the same thing happened to another one in this area, as I discovered while I was working on this. So same thing here. My hope is that I'll be able to glue it back together, but it definitely shows us that we made the right choice in not trying to put ladders all over the floor as we worked on the ceiling.
So, just as a little minor side project in his evenings after dinner, Gabriel has made a table for our new kitchen. I told him I thought we needed a table, and he was kind enough to make one for me.
I'm working on it.
I'm pretty excited about this table. It's just a little table. just a little, subtle, understated table. You think it'll be big enough?
Just a small table, huh?
No, it's just a little table. Just a little one.
Just a little one, huh?
Do you think it'll be big enough for our new kitchen?
I hope so, right? I hope so. Now,
It's a pretty big kitchen.
it is a pretty big kitchen, but this is a pretty big table.
That's right.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, so now you can prove that you made this.
I constructed this table.
That's right.
Come on. Oh, there we go. That's right. Two is kind of quite enough clamps for this. We have this pegged all the way along the length of every one of these joints, going this way. And then we have the pegs on these breadboard ends going in this way into each one of the boards. So this way, it's going to be absolutely solid. And there's glue, of course, everywhere as well. So it should be held together about as well as possible for something this large and made of wood.
After cutting a hole through the wall of the old scullery to the new kitchen, Gabriel smoothed up the rough edges of the hole he'd made the same way he'd made all our window frames, by cutting boards to shape, smoothing, staining, and varnishing them, then setting them in place. The old top of the original window he'd moved became the lintel of this new door frame. We were doing our best to turn this new room we were creating into a jewel box kitchen, a magical space. And of course, the portal into any magical space needs appropriate guardians.
So explain about these kitties.
So we needed to have something that represents, we were thinking about caryatids for the entryway as a neoclassical theme, but in our house, what makes more sense as caryatids than kitties, especially kitties grooming themselves? This just fits our house very much better. And so we had some of these carved, and they will now, hopefully, guard the entryway to our new kitchen.
You're probably wondering by now what happened to the old scullery. With the new kitchen finally shaping up, we decided the scullery needed a little love too. For one thing, as Gabriel said, the dingy white paint someone had slapped on it at some point was really doing no favors for the space. We painted it an olive sprig green to match the background field color of the new kitchen, which we'd chosen because it was our best guess of the scullery's original color. Under some of the peeling paint in the butler's pantry, we'd seen indications that the space had originally been stenciled in ivy, so I stenciled ivy in the freshened-up scullery. I also stenciled herbs in a line along the top of the wainscoting as an homage to something else in the room's history. When we'd moved in, the room had featured a faded and disintegrating sticker roll, too thin to be any sort of wallpaper frieze and the wrong texture to be contact paper. Judging from the graphics, it had probably been added in the late 1980s or early 90s. After we'd repainted the walls, I stenciled in fresh herbs in an homage to those old stickers. As for the old utility sink, I've written and made videos about my interest in the fern fever craze of the 1870s. As I see it, sinks are moist, and ferns grow in moist places. And of course, anyone who knows me understands I can never have enough red roses. Continuing to work off the theory that more is more, Gabriel suggested that since we already had the ultimate wood stove, it would be nice to keep it company with the ultimate gas stove. And besides, it would be nice to have a gas stove so we wouldn't have to run the wood stove every day all through the hot and muggy Iowa summers. Personally, I didn't object. To get the gas stove inside, we enlisted more help from Gabriel's coworkers. This time, it was a case of, how many college professors does it take to move an antique stove? When it came time, at long last, to get our wood stove out of the barn and into the new kitchen, we asked the volleyball team for help, promising them a home-cooked turkey dinner at the end of things featuring one of our hand-raised bourbon red heritage turkeys. Hearing this proposal, the student from Texas asked hopefully, "Will there be mac and cheese?" While we had so many strong backs here at once, we also had them move our icebox into position. It turned out to be even heavier than the stove, but they did a great job. Afterwards, it was a case of all aboard the dining room for turkey. And of course, I'd made mac and cheese from scratch.
Okay, so, who likes drumsticks?
Not these guys, are those.
Okay. These are the easiest to get off, of course.
These cost like $16 at a fair.
Renaissance Festival.
We almost went to the one in Iowa, but we...
In Houston, they cost $20, $30 for the rodeo, and they're not even
Yeah,
good.
this is.
I never had a
It was
good
gonna be
turkey.
hard.
Yep, I am not an expert with this.
Tell them about Pie's story.
Oops. So, my grandfather was an orthopedic surgeon, and so he was the one who always carved the turkey, and he usually.
Mashed potatoes.
Oh, good.
You know, when I make mashed potatoes, I learned the best trick was to add a little piece of butter.
I added a stick of butter.
Told y'all. It was the best way to make mashed potatoes mashed.
Totally.
Thank you.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you for all your help.
There you go.
But my wishes all came true. I went and rubbed a rusty nail, and then I made a wish for mail. Next day a letter said you'd better come home without fail. I'm going to hide away on a little farm in Iowa. I'm going to ride away on the road that leads to yesterday.
Thank you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up and remember to tell your friends about my books. I've got a new anthology out that's Victorian Thanksgiving stories from the 19th century. And of course, I hope everyone's enjoying my Tales of Chetzemoka, which is now complete, like the kitchen. Both epics.
Absolutely.
Okay, and share this video with all your friends. I'm sure they'll enjoy it.
I hope you've enjoyed learning all about the kitchen and our progress and just, well, enjoyed the entertainment value.
It wasn't entertaining to do.
No,
No, but we hope it entertained you.
Exactly.
Happy reading.